Hari Om everyone, and uh, welcome those who are joining in new for the sessions today, from today onwards. Please take a note, we are doing the fourth chapter of the Gita. We last concluded the 28th, or we were discussing the 28th verse of chapter 4. Now, you must keep in mind that this is a session that has been going on, and you can join at any point of time, but you must give yourself a little time to be able to follow the spirit of the message, the terminologies used, and the context of their usage. So I would request you all to be a little patient, and you can use the chat box, or you have been given access to raise your any question. Feel free to clarify so that you can be on the same page like others. The last we did was the 28th verse, one of the most prominent, very, very important. This verse falls in the section of what is known as the 12 yajnas. Just for the benefit of those who are hearing this concept for the first time, as you might be aware, yajna is nothing but a fire worship, a ritual from the pre-Vedic times. Now what the great Vyasa has done is, in the Gita, he actually gives it a new meaning. He converts a mere ritual into an opportunity how we can convert every aspect of our life into a yajna. As you and I understand, a yajna is nothing but an offering to the Lord, to the higher. So how to convert every aspect of your life, every aspect of your action into yajna? Now, every action has got three essential processes, three stages. So any action or life cycle of an action has a receipt of stimuli. The world comes to us through stimuli, and then there is a certain reaction that happens within, and then there are certain responses back into the world. So this is the normal cycle of any action. There is stimuli from the world. The stimuli received reacts with your inner personality, which is your mind and intellect. Mind and intellect is nothing but your emotions and thoughts. And once there's a reaction, there are responses back into the world through the organs of action. This is a general life cycle of any action, and these three processes determine a complete action. Now these 12 yajnas, he in fact dissects the entire action, which is these three ingredients, into 12 aspects. He dissects action, which consists of receipt, reaction, response, into 12 ingredients, 12 facets. So how to convert receipt of stimuli into yajna? He says, whenever you see something, whenever you hear something, whenever you smell something, taste or touch, you can have that unique opportunity, you can create that unique possibility to convert that perception into worship. Now, whenever we perceive things, the normalcy of life, every person gets carried away with the perception, isn't it? When you see a beautiful sight, you get carried away. You say, wow, what a beautiful sight. When you hear something profound, you say, wow, what an exposition. When you smell something delicious or taste something delicious, you say, you love it. Now what's happening is whenever the perception is perceived, you are actually getting carried away with the perception. But what he says, when the perception happens, like when you see something, that very moment, instead of getting carried away with the perception of sight, can you pause a moment? Can you witness something that is happening within you? Can you go inward and be conscious of that which enables you to see what you are seeing? It's one of the profound declarations of the Vedas. This morning we were talking about Vedic injunctions, or what are the Vedic wisdom, and this is in fact the highest wisdom. I could not have put it in that tone, in this tone rather, in that interview, but it is this. It can be given to a student who's ready to understand. And that phrase is Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yedidam Upasate. That alone is God, not what you people worship here. What is God? Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyat Vacho Havacha Gusa Upranasya Pranaha Chakshushas Chakshuratimucha Dhiraha Pretyasma Lokadamruta Bhavanti. Get a hold of this. Grapple it to thy soul with hoops of steel, as Shakespeare says. Now hold on to it. This is the most dear phrase from the Kenopanishad. It is that eye of the eye, it is the ear of the ear, it is the pranas, pranaha, it is the mind's mind. It is that which enables you to see what you see is God. Don't get carried away by what you see. You don't have to go great length to see God. Whatever you see, you can get attuned to God. And that is how you convert perception into worship. And then how to convert your reaction into worship. And now we are seeing how to convert your responses into worship. So the 28th verse onwards, he talks about converting your responses into worship. And how to convert your responses into worship? By living a life of service and sacrifice. What is the flavor of your actions? What is the frequency of your actions? What is that your actions convey? Is it a spirit of ego and egoistic desires, an egocentric purpose? Is it all that you're seeking your selfish ends in that you do? Or are you trying to express that spirit of service and sacrifice? So do your actions take an attitude of a giver or an attitude of a taker? The choice is with you. Believe me, every human has got this choice to decide whether you want to live a life of sacrifice or you want to live a life of aggrandize. The choice is yours. Whether you want to live a life of sacrifice or aggrandize. No God can help you. You've got to help yourself. You are the one who's taking a call. You are the person who's going to make that choice. And that's that's going to determine and define your action. So if your actions are in a spirit of service, if you truly want to be a giver, you can go a long mile. You can go that extra step to do what you want to do. And those who are givers, here is this verse that really inspires and gives them a guidance. We've already gone through this in entire detail, but it's worth mentioning. I will just get to the ninth yajna. I wanted to elaborate further on it. But just before that, he says there are 4 types of services you can perform. The lowest of all services, the first and the basic service you can start rendering is dravya yajna, is to part with material gifts. Dravya is the lowest you can do, the least you can do. Before you start parting with material conveniences for others' benefit, you are just sharing your privileges. You have something. God has been kind to you. Your karma has been favoring you. You are provided with certain amenities and facilities. So all what you do is you part with it, you share it with others, you give it to the needy. So the lowest form of service, in fact, the spiritual infancy of service, you can say, the first step of service is dravya yajna. Dravya is to part with material gifts. It can be, see, materiality is not just in terms of cash. Wealth, dravya means wealth. The olden days, what was wealth is cattle. What is wealth today is dollars and cents. So what wealth can buy? Wealth is a commodity which can exchange its sense objects. So you can give anything in kind, not just money. Anything that can be exchanged with money is dravya. But you start to learn to give with dravya. The first yajna of response is dravya. And then you evolve to tapo yajna. Tapaha is, it involves your physical body. You rise beyond the material. Material, as I've said, is just to write a check. In fact, you don't even take the trouble to write. It's already pre-filled by your secretary. And you just sign the check. There are 10 checks to sign, you just sign it. And your secretary sends out funds or your contributions to people. You're not doing any effort. No doubt you're parting with it, but what? There is no effort involved. Now, tapaha is to engage your physical personality. You take time out to find out what does the recipient need. What does the donee need? What is it that they need? What helps them? So you take physical trouble. It engages your time, your physical body, and that is superior to dravya yajna. Now, superior to physical and physical and material is yoga yajna, is the service at the emotional and intellectual level. You are uplifting someone emotionally. You go and talk to people who are deprived of emotions, who don't get that attention from their loved ones. You feel obliged. You feel they also need some love and affection. So you go out of your way to part with your emotions, feel them, they are loved and concerned. And that lifts the other person emotionally. You could do, I know people do that at hospitals, they go to orphanage homes, they go to old folks' homes and just help people emotionally. They don't need material service, they don't need physical service, but they need someone to feel them. Unlike in the West, they have what is known as Mother's Day and Father's Day. They celebrate that Mother's Day, Father's Day because only that day they come and spend time with their mothers and fathers. Rest of the year they don't have time. And even if the mother or father want to visit them, they say, I'm sorry dad, we have guests, please don't come. Why don't you try the following month? If all schedule fits in, we will entertain you. Otherwise, I'm sorry, we don't have time. They wouldn't sacrifice their bedroom, they can't accommodate beyond what they can accommodate in the guest rooms. They will not say, it's our own parents. I can sleep in the living room. Let them have my bedroom. After all, it's my own parents coming. They would never think that way. Now, I'm not being critical. I'm not passing a sweeping remark here. But what I'm only trying to say is, where there is, you go that extra mile of how does another person feel? And you will sacrifice your emotions to accommodate their feelings. You don't have to go to an old folks home or an orphanage or a hospital to cater this. By just feeling for other people and accommodating them, you're doing a yajna. Yoga yajna. Intellectual is to part with knowledge and ideas. You may go and counsel someone, you help them with their issues of life, that also is service. You're not doing with any ulterior motive, you just want to serve. So Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, and this above all, as Shakespeare says, this above all, to thine own self be true. I'm referring this phrase from the very famous play Hamlet, the Polonius' advice to Laertes. Polonius, the father, giving a very fatherly advice to his son Laertes, who is going to abroad for higher education, and he gives this parting advice, and then he gives, a few pieces of his thoughts, and it's worth reading. Every father should read. Every person should read. How should you advise your children? And it's just fabulous, And then he says, this above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Be true to yourself. You've got to learn to be true to yourself. So in that spirit, here he says, this above all, means this is the service a man can ever render. And that is Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna, the spirit of able to convey the very Atman to you. It's not just giving materiality, it is not giving your physical body, it is not giving your mind or intellect, you are giving the very Atman here. For God's sake, just stand up and take note. Somebody is giving the Atman to you. And in order to give that Atman as it is presupposed in all other yajnas, you need to discover the Atman. I need to have the resources to part with it. I need to have the physical strength to be of physical service to someone. Exactly the same way, I must know what that Atman is. I should know, I should realize that Atman. And Atman is not something which you can go into a storeroom or you can go into a supermarket and say, can I have the Atman please? And you can pick it up and say, oh, I've got the Atman now. It's not something you can find it anywhere. It's not something that is easily achievable even through sadhana. One needs to do great tapas, phenomenal tapas. It comes with great sacrifice, a life led with asceticism and self-discipline. That's what he says. So you got to live a life of an ascetic. Now what is a life of an ascetic? An ascetic is one who lives a life of high withdrawal. He stays away from the influences of the world. He is actually not interested in the worldly activities. He lives a life of an ascetic. He lives a life of tapas. Tapas is that essential quality of a spiritual sadhak. If you want to spiritually evolve, you must do tapas. And tapas has two essential ingredients. Now before I spell them out, any one of you have an idea what is tapas? Tapas is what creates that spirit of asceticism and self-discipline.
Sir, can I attend?
What is tapas?
I think it's the conversion.
By all means, Amar.
Conservation of energy and using that energy for the higher purpose. Oh.
Next time I will not ask you to say. Because you have, it's like somebody is playing the game of gambling, and the first attempt somebody wins a jackpot. Then nobody else can play any game. No, you have taken a jackpot and gone away.
I learned from you only. That's the reason I'm sharing it.
Huh? No, I know you have heard it in other class, and glad you can recall it and you correctly mentioned it. Very good, Amar. Tapas has these two essential ingredients. tapas is the first step of tapas is to conserve your mental energy. It's all mental, it's not physical. Conservation of your mental energy. The first ingredients of tapas. Now, can you tell me how does one dissipate their energy? When you say conservation of one's mental energy, it obviously means of avoiding dissipation. So how does one dissipate? All right, as Jayama says, worries and anxieties. Gayatri Ma says worrying. Vijaya says thoughts. What kind of thoughts are we talking about here? Setaramanji says worldly activities. Now, this is very, very subjective. When I say subjective, when does something become a dissipation for you? When does a particular action, can we take a general remark and say, this activity is dissipation, don't do it? Isn't it subjective? What is entertainment for me may be dissipation for you. What is dissipation for me may be fascination for you. Isn't it? Isn't it purely individualistic? Now, how can I go about saying what you're doing is dissipation of energy? Don't do that. I know people are constantly hooked on to these avenues of watching movies. It can be Amazon, it can be Netflix, it can be any possible avenue. You just get hooked on. Now, can I say watching movies is dissipation of energy? Is it right to say that? It is very wrong, isn't it? How can we pass a sweeping remark that watching movies is dissipation of energy? Now, when and how does a particular action become dissipation? That is determined by what is your goal in life? What is your purpose in life? What do you want to achieve? A simple thing like my goal is I would like to do this spiritual sadhana. I want to be dead serious in this spiritual evolution, which means I must be available for a certain activity at a certain hour, which means I must be available at an hour which is auspicious, which is necessary. Example, I want to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Is it possible for me to keep lingering till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock watching movies? Would it augur well for me in my pursuit to contemplate or reflect on the self? Now, with my goal of wanting to get up in the morning, I need to give myself the necessary hours of rest. I would say watching a movie till late night is dissipation of energy. I can't generalize with everyone. It's only because I have a goal which is self-realization. You'd see that. If vis-a-vis, let's say another example, if I have a goal, I'm building my body. I want to compete in what do you call that sport? I don't know the name. It's not wrestling. It is they showcase their muscle. They showcase their body. What do you call that? Is it bodybuilding? Okay, so there I get it right. Okay. No, I'm not talking of WWF, please. That is the Asuric sport. WWF are Asuras only. Rakshasas and Asuras play that. And I remember one of my students came and asked me, and Guruji, I like watching WWF. Is it a sattvic activity? I had a laugh of my life. I said, sir, Enna, sir, what are you talking? WWF is completely Rajasic, Rakshasa and Tamasa. And I know Western countries, I think, is it not something which is originated in US? Is it a US sport, an American sport? And people go in numbers, it is crazy. It's all fake. It's not real, but they put on an act and then there's all so much of uh, vulgarity and so much of expression of anger and hatred and I don't know what not. I don't want to talk about it. The thought of it, I'm getting convulsions. Now, I'm not talking of WWF, Jayama. I'm talking of weight, not even weightlifting, it is bodybuilding. Now, let's say if I want to build my body into that V shape, chest is like this, my waist is like this, not like this. Most of the people are like this. The waist is like this, but if I want to make it like this, what kind of discipline I need? What kind of shraddha, what kind of tapas I got to put in? He would slog himself in through gym and drinking certain necessary protein milkshake, that powder, this powder, no to junk, no to this, no to that, because his goal is bodybuilding. He wants to be like this, not like this. So those people who are like this, they have a different goal. They are very clear. Thereafter, they go all out. You can't say no to that. So, I've taken these two examples. Tapas, what action is dissipation, what action is essential, determines by what is your goal, what is your purpose in life. So, a person with Swadhyaya Yajna, the tapas he wants to do is conserve his energy from dissipation to unnecessary worldly activities. He is not available for them. And having conserved that energy, he directs them towards the higher. So tapas is conservation and then redirecting them for a higher purpose. And that is what a person who does Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna, which is to give the knowledge of the self, he gets into that spirit of practicing asceticism and self-discipline. And when one does that, it destroys their worldly vasanas. Vasanas means nothing but desires. It burns away their worldly desires and vasanas. And when the vasanas and desires get burnt away, to that extent the Atman in you gets expressive. The Atman gushes forth. The Atman expresses itself. Isn't it? And when a man of realization, relative and absolute, so that to the extent you have realized that Atman, to that extent the Atman speaks. And a man of realization is one who has completely realized his self, totally. And when they speak, the Atman spoke. So whenever these great men in textbooks, they say, come to me. I am thy savior. Seek me, seek I. So when they use the first person singular pronoun, when they use the word I and my, they mean the Atman. But when you and I use the I and my, we mean our ego. That's the difference. They are not referring to their personality. They are referring to the Atman, the self. And the highest yajna is Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. One in a generation reaches there. And it is very much your birthright and my birthright. You need to get there. I need to get there. The only purpose we are born is to get there. But nobody has time for that. Like somebody in the interview was saying, Guruji, I am very busy. I don't have time. Can I learn Vedanta in a crash course? In 1 week I want to learn. I want to become a Vedantan in overnight. I wish I had a magic pill. Because what I will do, I will take it first. There's nobody that can do it. And if I have spare, I'll pass it to you also. There is no way. In fact, in the Gita, Lord Krishna himself says, I can't help you, Arjuna. The Lord himself says, a dear friend, a childhood friend, a man of that wisdom. So I'm Narayana himself. The famous words in the Gita throughout, he says, Uddhare Atmanatmanam. You got to lift yourself by yourself. Nobody can help you to lift yourself. You got to do it. So that requires phenomenal commitment and work on your own self. And when you do that, you get to the self. So this of all is the highest of all spiritual exercises, which is to part with Atman. And in order to do that, I need to do self-study. I need to invoke that wisdom in me. This is the ninth yajna, or rather the last of all, the highest of all sacrifices and services you can render to mankind. Okay? Very, very important that you rise up to the level of Swadhyaya. Just don't be content by just doing material service, physical, emotional. You've got to switch, go to the last gear, go to the overdrive, get on to that where things become smooth. You start flowing effortlessly. It takes a lot of effort to get there. Okay? So let's move on. Let's chant verse 29. Apane juhvati pranam prane panam tatha pare pranapanagati rudhva pranayama parayanaha apane juhvati pranam prane panam tatha pare pranapanagati rudhva pranayama parayanaha. So here in this verse he's covering the 10th and the 11th yajna. So in any yajna there are two things, what is offered and what is kindled. Like when you offer grains or ghee into the fire, the flame shoots, it gets kindled. Similarly, the 10th yajna and 11th yajna conveys. Now first the translation. Here he says, yet others. Sacrifice of prana, the incoming breath, into apana, outgoing breath, and apana into prana. This is the 10th yajna. And 11th yajna he says, restraining the causes of prana and apana. Some are solely absorbed in pranayama. This is the 11th yajna. Now let's take step by step. 10th yajna is it is the yajna of receipt and response. No sound. I have not done anything to the audio. Can you all hear me?
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think others can hear ma. So just please check at your end. Maybe you have muted your speaker by some mistake. Okay. So the 10th yajna is the yajna of receipts and responses. So what is offered is prana and what is kindled is apana. Prana is incoming breath. Once incoming breath comes and it dies, then apana, the outgoing breath happens. And then once the outgoing breath happens, you breathe out, you breathe in. So when you take in breath, what it kindles is expiration, exhalation. You breathe in, you breathe out. When you breathe out, again you breathe in. So when inhalation dies, exhalation happens. When exhalation dies, inhalation happens. This is saying yajna is going on. Ennappa idu? What are you talking? I don't understand ABCD of it. Idha sonna illaya kalayala. They are speaking in their contemporary thought and language. How are to understand breathing in, breathing out, breathing out, breathing in, yajna going on? வேற என்ன வேலை இல்லையா? சும்மா உட்கார்ந்து கன்ஃபியூஸ் பண்றீங்க இந்த மாதிரி. Total confusion. Now, breathing in, breathing out not just refers to breath. Here he's talking about when you receive any input at all levels of your personality, whether be it food, when you food goes in, it gets digested, excretion happens. And once you have emptied your bowels, there is desire or the urge to eat. So input, output, output, input at the physical level. And then emotions. When you give emotions, when your emotions die, when you have given your love to someone, you have given your love to your child, when your emotion dies, then you are able to receive others' emotions. And once you receive that emotion, you are able to reciprocate that emotion, love to your child again. So it is in and out, out and in of emotions. At the same time, it applies to thoughts and ideas. So here he's saying, this is a yajna going on. Are you aware of it? This is happening. It is happening with or without your notion. You keep eating, you keep breathing, you keep entertaining emotions and thoughts. This is all that matters. All that matters is knowledge. The moment you become aware of it, it becomes a yajna. If you are not aware of it, it becomes you are in complete bliss, total ignorance, complete blanketed ignorance. Imagine extreme example I'm taking. I think gurus used to use this example. I don't know which guru, but gurus use it. So I'm also borrowing and I'm using it. Imagine when you have these people who lay the roads, they have this tar. Imagine I take a bucket of tar and pour it over you. There's a complete thick layer of tar over you. Nothing can enter into you, can you? Idella tar. So thick tar they have, nothing enters into them. That is ignorance. So you will have to spiritual tar, ignorance is spiritual tar. Any amount of waking up, they don't wake up. I'm not criticizing, I'm not telling people, there are certain people who are in their own world. They are, other day I was saying, using the word bindas. You all don't need bindas. Other day I was using the word bindas to the Malaysian crowd. They said, what is das? Which das is this? They were saying. No, it's no das, it is bindas. Bindas means you must come to Hyderabad to know the Nawabi attitude, bindas attitude. Nothing matters. They don't care what is going on. A kind of tamasic attitude. So when there is tamas and ignorance, you don't perceive. So he's saying all this is happening. Are you aware of it? 10th yajna. Okay, these are all the receipts and responses that's happening. Alright. Now, 11th yajna is the yajna of absorption, which is internal. Now, what is offered here? He says restraint of prana and apana. The next yajna is, he says, restraining the courses of prana and apana. Some are solely absorbed in pranayama. Now pranayama, I will surrender to Shiva and say, Shiva, or next 10 minutes pranayama or lecture kudungo and or rehearsal panungo. So for that I will have to do this. ஆமா, இப்படி பண்ணீங்கன்னா then we will know what is pranayama. கரெக்டா உட்காருங்க first. இல்லையா? Yes sir. So now for the next 10 minutes our guru is Shiva. Hari Om Guruji. சொல்லுங்க சார். We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You need to unmute your microphone, Shiva.
Yeah, you want me to take some pranayama? Fine, I'm game. I've been doing it. To the extent that what I have learned, I've been sharing.
No. What I wanted. No. That is the secret behind your youth.
I'm attending your sessions. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing
Now,
pranayama.
Shiva, just
Be in the present moment. See how I can be here right now, this moment. Simple. Nothing beyond.
absolutely. No, it is simple for you, but we are struggling to get to your state, Shiva. Please help us, no? Adda, can you please guide us through so that?
All I will have one session.
Now, Shiva, what I want to, yes. Now, what I want to ask from you is, when you regulate prana and apana, it becomes pranayama. You may be breathing, in fact, you can't stop breathing even for a few seconds. Pranayama, what is the difference between regulating your prana, which is pranayama, vis-a-vis normal breathing? Can you give us an insight on that?
You are not even aware. The moment you start paying attention to your breath, you bring awareness, it's a pranayama. The moment you pay attention to it and we start breathing deeply, in fact, we only use 30% of our lung capacity because we are not doing pranayama. When you practice regularly pranayama, then it extends to up to 70%. The lung capacity increases. In fact, in these COVID times, it's most important that we use pranayama to increase the lung capacity, because that's when you take in more oxygen and you are more energetic. Pranayama is the control of the breath. Pranayama is control. When you do the controlled breathing, there are different types of breathing, different types of pranayamas. Nadishodan pranayama, normal yogic breath, wherein you just allow the lower part of the lungs to widen, and Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi breath is these are different types of pranayamas. When we all practice it, it definitely you take in more oxygen, it gives you more energy. You're there. That's what. And it has to be done every day. It's not that many of us have learned and left it. It's to be practiced again and again, varam, and with care and utmost care.
நீங்க ஒரு மினி சங்கராச்சாரிய ஆயிட்டீங்க நீங்க. ஏன் சார் ரொம்ப ஏன் சார் எங்கேயோ போயிட்டீங்க சார், நீங்க எங்கேயோ போயிட்டீங்க. Now, thanks Shiva. Now, what I wanted to, as Shiva rightly said, when you bring in that regulation, when you bring in that restraint, you hold your breath, you bring in discipline to even the simplest of exercise of a breathing. Intake, you hold it, output, you hold it. By doing that, what it gives you vitality, it gives you strength, it gives you energy, it gives you life. Even at the breath level. So what he is saying is, absorption at the internal level happens when you bring in a restraint of prana and apana. Now that is very clear, as Shiva mentioned, that when there is restraint, there is strength generated, vitality comes in, inner strength comes. Now prana and apana, as we interpreted in the previous yajna, it is just not control of input and output of breath. It controls regulation of all your activities. Now, even you extend it to start with physical, at the food. If you don't regulate how much of food you eat, what would happen? What would happen? This will become this, that's all. This will become this. You become, in fact, you become indolent, you become lazy, you become lethargic, you lose vitality, you lose your strength. So if you want your body to have strength, what you need to inject is restraint. Now what is restraint? What is restraint? Huh? Yeah, Rajima? Can you explain what is restraint of food? Controlling consciously, controlling what and how much one eats. Perfect, Sitaramji. See, restraint, the opposite of restraint. Okay, what is the opposite of restraint? Is going maja, indulge. Let's have fun. You go all out. Indulgence, correct. Now, when you understand indulgence, what is indulgence is an indiscriminate contact. Almost a licentious indulgence. License, you have to do what you want. Indiscriminate. Indiscriminate, it is the mind. The mind, whenever the mind has a thought, you indulge in it. But when it becomes discriminate, it is restraint. It is punctuation. The best way to understand restraint is to punctuate. What punctuate? Punctuate two contacts. How long can you withdraw from that particular sense contact? How long can you withdraw? Means after one contact with a sense object, how long does it take for you to go and again contact it? For example, let's say I like chocolates. How long can I abstain from it, from eating? As simple as that. What is the frequency between eating chocolates? It is the interval between two contacts is called restraint. And when you do that, it gives you strength at the physical level. Even emotions. Don't just be bubbling and become emotional at all times. Hold on to your emotions. Control your emotions. You know, when you don't have control of your emotions, what is the term? What happens? See, you have emotion to your child, to your family, to your near and dear. But when that emotion is not governed, what happens? Sedramanji, what happens when you don't control your emotions?
You go everywhere.
Sir, you have love for your child. Why would you become temperamental, sir? Now I said when you don't bring in, sir, I repeat, when you don't bring restraint to food, it is indulgence. Same way, when you don't bring restraint to emotions, what happens is the question.
To emotions to your child, what happens?
You come.
Or anyone.
You become angry.
Not only to a child, to anyone.
You go to extremes of emotions. You damage yourselves and others.
Looks like if I continue with you, you might get angry with me now. Huh? Now, what happens? Now, I know what you're getting at, but I'm looking for that one term, rightly so.
Break.
What is that term happens when you don't govern your emotions with others? Enna Vasantama, what happens?
Not clear. So when you are asking the question, it is breaking.
Voice is breaking, but I am not breaking, sir. I am intact. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now I see a few of them are saying, Rakesh ji is saying moha, delusion. You're right, very right. Your thinking is right. Moha. Bhagavad ji is saying out of balance. Emotions control you. Yes, you become emotional. Sudhakar Garu is saying turbulence in the mind. Rajama said attachment, aggressive, undesirable behavior and thoughts. Gets agitated. Soumyama said sense of wisdom is lost. Yeah, that's what moha is. Your wisdom gets clouded. But see, in fact, you all are very much right. Passionate attachment. Correct, Harishji. In fact, when you don't govern your emotions to others, you start pampering them. Just like you start indulging in the food, you start pampering the emotions. So the word pampering happens when you become emotionally attached. Somebody said attachment. Yes, you become attached. Also, Soumyama said outburst, like you become temperamental. So all these happens when you don't regulate your enna guru enna avude pranayama breath mattumilla. It is not just breath. It is discipline, restraint at physical level, restraint at emotional level. So now can you tell me what is restraint at the intellectual level? Shiva solungo. Sir, unmute பண்ணுங்க sir.
Don't get clouded. You're confused. No clarity.
Sir, illa. Now when you don't bring restraint to knowledge, what happens? When you don't regulate knowledge, what happens?
You get clouded. You get confused.
Sorry. Okay. You get confused and clouded. All right. Okay. I will go to Setramanji. Chapan sir, what happens
Arrogant
when
and proud.
you don't regulate
I'm
your
arrogant and proud.
You are not a man
knowledge?
of
What
wisdom.
happens?
You are a man of only so-called knowledge.
Huh? Sorry? Okay. Okay. I thought you will get it. No, you're not entirely correct, but I can agree where you're coming from. What happens now? What is the most important aspect of knowledge? We always said knowledge has to be taken in the right dosage, isn't it? How much knowledge you need to attain wisdom? In fact, the next verse we are going to take in Wednesday in Bhajrovindam, he says, Bhagavad Gita kinchid bhita ganga jalalava kanika pita, he says. So how much you need? Just a drop of Ganges, he says. Just sip of Ganges is enough. You don't need the whole, the sip of the Gita, the knowledge. How much knowledge you need? A little bit, he says. Like the Ganges, he says. Just a drop of. Sir, when you are adding milk into curd, Sorry, curd into milk. I'm sorry. I am very far from kitchen. That's the reason little confusion. Forgive me. So when you have to set up curd, what you do? You add little curd into milk. Correct, Dana? You add curd into milk, no? How much curd you add? How much culture do you add? Hardly, not even half a spoon, quarter spoon, isn't it? Little bit. You have a 2 liter milk, lukewarm milk, kinchita, correct? Little bit of curd you add. That little is enough to transform the milk into solid yogurt. The milk is the mind. The yogurt is the knowledge. And when you add it and stir it and leave it overnight, it becomes matured mind, which is a solid yogurt. It's a beautiful example taken in the Atma Bodha, another text by Adi Shankaracharya. Now since I mentioned of it, let me talk about it. But before I do talk of the example, I will convey the message, otherwise we'll get lost. The message is, when you regulate your knowledge, means how much knowledge you need to take in. The proportion is 30% knowledge, 70% reflection. Siddharamanji, you are the man of percentages. How can you forget it?
This rule is there 20-80.
You are a man of mathematician amongst us. நீங்க தான் mathematician. நீங்க எப்படி மறந்துட்டீங்க? கரெக்டா? Correct. See, you corrected me here also. 20%, 80%. So 20-80. So 20 to 30% you have information. 70 to 80% you do reflection. This is regulation of knowledge, regulation of ideas. Otherwise, as we said in the interview this morning, everybody is inundated with knowledge. You have all the information, but you don't have the wisdom to help you. You have enough knowledge to rattle off and prattle, but it doesn't convert into a transformation of your life. So for that, what you need to do, reflect on the knowledge. And when that is not done, knowledge remains as knowledge. It is of no use to you. It doesn't help you. It's like carrying gold on a mule's back. Remember, we gave the example. What is the use of knowledge? What is the use of either worldly knowledge or what is the use of Vedic knowledge? You may know the Vedas, you may know worldly knowledge. It is of no use to you if you have not converted it into wisdom. And how do you convert wisdom? How do you gain that intellectual strength? Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. How do you get that clarity of the intellect? How do you get that wisdom? By regulation of knowledge. By regulating prana, you get vitality of strength. By regulating food, you get health. By regulating emotion, you get pure feelings. By regulating chaste emotions come. When your emotions are controlled, you bring chastity to them. You bring pure emotions. You don't become emotional. You have all the love, but well governed. You may even have anger, but you don't become temperamental. You don't become emotional. You use anger to correct someone. At the same time, when you have knowledge, it gives you wisdom. This is through pranapana gati ruddhva pranayama parayanaha. Now, people are only going about teaching pranayama because he says, Gita also says pranayama. It is your duty and my duty to understand. It is just not controlling breath. You've got to control, regulate in all aspects of your personality. Regulate your body, regulate your mind, regulate your intellect. And that gives inner strength, internal strength. That vitality outside, vitality inside. Yes, Rajesh ji, you can ask your question. Do you have the microphone access? Yes, you have the access, Rajesh, you can speak. Are you speaking, sir? I'm afraid we are not able to hear you. We can't hear you. Perhaps you can use the chat box to type in what you want to comment. Okay. So when you can comment, please do so. Okay. No problem. So that's fine. Understandable. That's fine. So what this yajna is talking about is to regulate your prana, regulate your body, regulate your intake of food. When you say body, already prana is breath, which takes up the pranamaya kosha, annamaya kosha is the food, manomaya kosha is the mind, the vijnanamaya kosha is the intellectual sheath. All the koshas of your body, of your personality are taken care of. And then you get to the Anandamaya kosha, which is that bliss you experience, which is the closest to the self. And then if you carry on this way, you hit the self, which is the bliss of Atman realization. Now, this analogy of converting or the proportioning or regulating of knowledge is put it in a very beautiful way, as I said, in Atma Bodha by Adi Shankaracharya. Now he says, firstly quickly go through the analogy first. There is the milk, raw milk. You purchase the raw milk and then the milk is heated up. Thirdly, it is brought to lukewarm temperature. Then in the lukewarm temperature, you add a little bit of culture. You leave it overnight. The next morning you see the milk has set into curd, and in the early hours of the morning before sunrise, when you churn the curd, you get a little bit of cream, a little bit of butter. And that cream or butter, in the olden days, it used to be stored in pots of water because they didn't have refrigerators. And if you don't store it, it gets spoiled. So they used to store the butter in pots of cold water, or water, and the pot gives that coolness to the water. You store the butter, and every day you got to change the water, otherwise the butter gets spoiled. And then when you have got sufficient butter, they put it under a flame, and that butter which dies, if it's not taken care of, when it's put under fire, it becomes ghee. And the ghee is something which is permanent. It doesn't get spoiled. It has a longevity. So he says, the verse in the Atma Bodha, he says, to gain knowledge of the self is like to find, in fact he says, knowledge, the self is everywhere. Just like butter pervades milk, he says. Every drop of milk has got butter. Similarly, everywhere there is Brahman or reality, but you have to go through the process of extracting butter from milk. Similarly, you have to go through the process of sadhana to be able to discover the self which is everywhere. You need to gain that vision. You need to gain that perception. So how do you do it? Firstly, the milk, raw milk, is the immatured mind. The cold mind is an ill-prepared mind. It is not ready for this higher knowledge. And then when the milk, when it is heated up and brought to lukewarm temperature, so the milk being lukewarm is adequate experience of life. It is not too hot or not too cold. Means you have not burnt your body with your worldly experiences, where at the right age of your life you want to learn when. What does Bhagavad Gita got to say? When in the deathbed you want to learn Bhagavad Gita. And there is no use. I would only say better luck next Janma. In the deathbed you want to learn Bhagavad Gita. All throughout, what have you done? You have burnt your body in the Bhajagovindam, he says. You have burnt your body chasing worldly desires. So you can't add that milk, add that culture into hot milk, burnt by worldly pursuits. Rajasic fellow can't. Tamasic fellow, very cold. You can't take the milk from the freezer and add culture. Nothing will happen. Means, and a person who has not experienced the world. Lukewarm is, here is someone who has got that experience of life. He has gone out, he has seen the world, he knows what the world has to offer, and he understands the limitation. And then he is ready. That right mindset. Never should he think, oh, I am missing all what others are enjoying in life. Unnecessarily, stupidly, I am practicing what? What am I practicing? Tapas. Something Guru said, tapas I must practice, I practice tapas. And all through I am practicing tapas, I am cursing myself. Cha, I am missing all the maja everybody is having. Look at that fellow, nice fun. He's going to clubs and pubs, he's traveling all around the world, he's going on a cruise, with his family. Array, how nice. Unnecessarily I am practicing the tapas. So, you have seen it, you know what the world has to offer, you are little detached. That maturity is the lukewarm. And then, as I've said, little bit of culture, give little knowledge. Don't add a large proportion of culture, it will not set. A little bit of curd, stir it up, leave it undisturbed. So the knowledge you receive, what knowledge you need, this knowledge is more than enough. In fact, I'm giving you a tub of curd, not the tub of curd. Take a little spoon from what I have taught you today. What you learned today, other than the little concept is enough. Not the entire class. Little knowledge, take it, and early morning before sunrise. When? Pratasmarami Hridisam Sfuradatmatattvam Satchit Sukham Paramaham Sagatin Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptamaveti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha Tapo Bhikshina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshu Namapekshoyam Atmabodho Vidhiyate. Outstanding. Invocation in the first two verses of Atmabodha. So in the early morning, what do? Pratasmarami Hridisam Spuradatmatattvam. So you try to reflect when? The early morning, exactly like you take the stick and churn the curd in the early morning. You go through the reflection. Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nachabhuta Sangaha. I am that Brahman, Tad Brahma, I am the truth. Nishkalamaham Nachabhuta Sangaha. I am not this assemblage of elements. I am not this. Neti, I am not this. I am that, I am that. I want to assert that. Assertion, negation, assertion, negation, negation, assertion. The two churnings of that stick that you put a rope around that stick and you churn the curd. When you do that, you get the cream. The cream is wisdom. Little vairagyam you get. Little wisdom you get. And what do? You protect that wisdom in the waters of devotion. Always never allow that knowledge to get to your head. Dhana, Jana, Yavvanam. That's what he says in Bhagavad. Let it not get to your head. So the knowledge should be protected in the waters of devotion. Every day change the waters. So ensure you don't become arrogant of your knowing. Be humble. What you know is very little, man. Be humble. So the waters of devotion. When you have got sufficient wisdom, you are matured, one day you sit to meditate, which is what the fire So meditation is done as a culmination. When you have got sufficient wisdom, then you can sit and meditate. Nowadays meditation become a hobby. Meditation, everybody is meditating. Spiritual exercise now. Oh, I am also meditating. You meditate, I meditate. Let's do collective meditation. It's like I don't know. It's become very diluted today. But real meditation is only done by a very matured mind, a very highly spiritually evolved mind truly meditates. And when you do meditation, what comes out of that is not mental peace. You get salvation, you get nirvana, you get moksha. True meditation gives you moksha. But today it is often used as a technique to calm the mind. It does help, but it has a much profound purpose. It has a very specific connotation. And this is where I referred to this analogy of how much culture you add into the milk, which is the regulation of thoughts and ideas. When you regulate, what you get is inner strength. You get vitality. So 10th is regulation, is prana, apana, apana, prana, input, output, output, input. Here it is restraint. So when you don't restrain, you lose your strength and vitality. The moment you restrain, it gives you vitality. And then in the 30th verse, he does the 12th yajna, which we will come and see next week, and that completes the cycle of converting action, which is receipt, reaction, responses, into worship. Okay? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.